I never thought burying my own father would feel like the punchline to a sick joke, but there I was, knee-deep in the red clay of that Kentucky hillside, the summer heat baking my skin while the preacher droned on about eternal rest like it was some Hallmark card. Dad's casket gleamed unnaturally under the relentless sun, a cheap pine box we'd scraped together for because the life insurance had vanished like smoke from a back alley bonfire. And as the first shovelful hit the lid with a thud that echoed in my gut, I caught it, a glint in the dirt, half buried like a forgotten promise.
A coin.
Old, tarnished, with a jagged mark scratched into its face, like someone had clawed at it with a knife in the dead of night. That's when the second one turned up, right in the pocket of Dad's burial suit, the one I'd sewn the tear in myself just weeks before his accident. Same mark, same weight of betrayal pressing down on my palm. By the time the grave was filled and the mourners scattered back to their air-conditioned lives in Lexington, I'd found 5 more, tucked in the lining of his old toolbox, wedged under the floorboard of his pickup, even one sewn into the hem of the flag-draped casket like a final fuck you from beyond. Each coin whispered the same lie: this wasn't an accident. This was payback. And the man who'd set it in motion? My own blood, sitting right there in the front row, eyes dry as the Appalachian dust, pretending to grieve while his secrets festered like an open wound. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but in the sticky heat of a Kentucky July, it felt more like swallowing broken glass, sharp, unrelenting, and bound to draw blood no matter how careful you tried to be. My name's Arabella Hayes, and up until that funeral, I'd been the good daughter, the one who dropped out of community college to sling burgers at the Waffle House so Dad could chase his pipe dream of flipping houses in the Rust Belt suburbs. Arabella, with her 2 big eyes and her laugh that could cut through a bar fight like butter. That's what they called me in high school, back when life was just football games under those floodlights in Berea, tailgates with lukewarm PBRs, and dreaming of Nashville lights without a clue how deep the shadows ran in my own backyard. Dad, Tommy Hayes, was the king of half-finished projects. A Vietnam vet son who'd inherited nothing but stories of Agent Orange and bad debts, he poured concrete foundations that cracked before the walls went up, sold, and cheap to desperate families, and drank the profits away at the VFW hall. But he loved me fierce, in that quiet, broken-toothed way of Southern men who say more with a nod than a novel. Belle, he'd slur on those late nights when the bourbon hit hard, "You're the only foundation that don't crumble." I'd tuck him in, hide the empties, and wake up to brew coffee strong enough to strip paint, because that's what daughters do when the world's stacked against you. The accident happened on a Tuesday, the kind of ordinary that fools you into complacency. Dad was working a flip in Frankfurt, a crumbling Victorian he'd bought for a song from some widow who'd fled to Florida after her husband's suicide. Electrocution, they said. Faulty wiring in the basement. The kind of sloppy job that screams negligence in a lawsuit-hungry state like ours. But I knew better. Dad was meticulous with volts. He'd once rewired our trailer blindfolded just to prove a point after a storm knocked out the power for a week. No, this was deliberate. A live wire snaked through the joists, waiting like a rattler in tall grass. The cops ruled it fast. Overworked badges in a county where opioids claimed more lives than homicides. Tragic mishap, the detective muttered, scribbling on a notepad stained with what smelled like fast food grease. I nodded, signed the forms, and drove home to our double-wide on the edge of town, the radio blasting some twangy Carrie Underwood revenge anthem that suddenly felt too on the nose. That's when I found the first coin, spilled from the glove box like an accusation. It was a 1964 Kennedy half-dollar, edges worn smooth from years in a pocket, but that mark, 3 slashes crossing like an X over the president's face, made my stomach twist. I'd seen it before, as a kid, etched into the doorframe of Grandpa's shed, the one place Dad never let me go. Grandpa Elias. The ghost in our family photos, the man who'd raised Dad alone after Grandma split for Cincinnati with a trucker named Roy. Elias Hayes, war hero or war criminal, depending on who you asked at the American Legion. He died when I was 10, but not before drilling into Dad's head that some debts never die, some marks never fade. Blood buys blood, Tommy. He'd rasp over corn liquor, his eyes like chipped flint. Dad would laugh it off, but I'd catch him tracing that same X on napkins, lost in whatever black hole Elias had dug for him. After the funeral, I couldn't sleep. The coins burned holes in my nightstand drawer, 6 of them now, each a talisman of unfinished business. I started digging, not graves but records. Pulled Dad's bank statements from the shoebox under his bed, the ones yellowed like old regrets. Withdrawals I didn't recognize, 500 here, a grand there, funneled to an account in Elias's name, dormant since '89. And the beneficiary? Not Dad.
Not me.
Uncle Harlan. Harlan Hayes, Dad's older brother, the golden boy who'd skipped town for Louisville after high school, built a real estate empire on the bones of foreclosures. Slick suits, bigger grins, the kind of guy who shakes your hand while picking your pocket. He showed at the funeral in a tailored black number that cost more than our trailer, clapped me on the back with condolences that rang hollow as a bad check. Belle, honey, if you need anything, Uncle Harlan's got you. His eyes lingered too long on the family plot, on Elias's headstone with its faded eagle emblem. I confronted him that night, over takeout barbecue in his penthouse overlooking the Ohio River, the city lights mocking my small-town suspicions. What the hell's this? I slapped a coin on the glass coffee table, the mark catching the neon glow. Harlan's face didn't crack, not at first. He sipped his bourbon neat, swirled it like he was tasting my doubt. Old man's games, Belle. Elias was half crazy by the end. Vietnam flashbacks, you know? Mark those coins for luck, or some bullshit. But his fingers twitched and I saw it. The flicker, the flip. The man who'd always played both sides, whispering in Dad's ear to take the fall for family mistakes, then vanishing when the heat came down. It started unraveling from there. Late nights at the library in Frankfurt, microfiche reels spinning like roulette wheels. Elias hadn't just fought in Nam. He'd smuggled opium from the Golden Triangle, funneled back stateside through veteran networks, a dirty little pipeline that lined pockets from Hanoi to Harlan's first duplex. Dad knew. Hell, Dad covered. When the Fed sniffed close in '72, Tommy Hayes, barely 20, took the rap, a plea deal for possession, 2 years in county that stole his GI Bill, and any shot at a clean life. Elias walked free. Harlan got the seed money to flip his first property, blood money, marked with that X like a brand. And the betrayal? Deeper than graves. Harlan hadn't just profited, he'd engineered it. Letters I found in Elias's trunk, hidden behind rusted tools. Harlan's handwriting, plotting the frame, promising Dad a cut that never came. Protect the family, Tommy. Blood first. Dad swallowed it, rebuilt from scraps, while Harlan climbed, marrying into old Louisville money, siring perfect kids who summered in the Hamptons.
Me?
I grew up on welfare cheese and hand-me-downs, watching Dad's back break under loads he never deserved. By week's end, I had a plan. Not some movie script blaze of glory, no guns, no Molotovs. Harlan's empire was glass. One crack, and it'd spiderweb. I started small. Anonymous tips to the IRS about offshore accounts, whispers to his tenants about eviction scams. But revenge isn't linear. It's a slow bleed. And Harlan? He smelled it coming. A call at midnight, his voice silk over steel. Belle, darlin', family's all we got. Don't make me remind you what happens to snitches in this state.
Click.
I hung up, another coin in my fist. The 7th, fresh from Harlan's own jacket at the funeral. Marked the same. Game on. The drive back from Louisville felt like crossing state lines into enemy territory, the interstate a black ribbon unspooling under headlights that cut the fog like accusations. Harlan's warning echoed in my skull, but it only sharpened the edge. I'd grown up idolizing him in snatches, the uncle who sent Christmas cards with 20s folded inside, the one Dad cursed under his breath when the lights flickered from unpaid bills. Now, he was the architect of our ruin, a chameleon in wingtips who'd slithered from hero to villain without missing a step. And me, Arabella Hayes, trailer park Cinderella turned avenging ghost, I was done playing the fool. First move, the coins. Not just relics, they were ledgers. I took them to Millie at the pawn shop on Vine Street, the one with the flickering, open sign and shelves sagging under banjos no one tuned anymore. Millie was pushing 70, with tattoos from her Hell's Angels days faded to watercolor ghosts, and a nose for bullshit sharper than a switchblade. "These ain't Lucky Charms, girl," she drawled, squinting through her bifocals as she weighed one on her scarred palm. "Kennedy halves from 64? Marked like that? Smells like old mob shit. Your grandpa run with a hillbilly mob, didn't he? Back when Harlan was knee-high, peddling moonshine for pocket change." Millie spun tales while she polished them, Elias cutting deals in the hollers, Harlan as the lookout kid with eyes like a hawk. But the real dirt? She pointed me to Father O'Malley at St. Mary's, the priest who'd heard confessions from half the county sinners. "He knows the Hayes boys' sins better than their own mamas." I slipped him a coin as donation, watched his ruddy face pale under the confessional's dim bulb. "Harlan, he twisted your daddy's loyalty, Arabella. Elias's war haul, it funded the first Hayes holdings. Tommy confessed once broken. Took the fall to keep the family afloat. But Harlan? He flipped the script, used it to bury the truth deeper." O'Malley's words lit the fuse. I hit the county clerk's office next, grease monkeys in cubicles buried under deed files. Harlan's empire wasn't built on flips, it was laundered ghosts. That Frankfurt Victorian? One of a dozen Elias had acquired post-war, titles forged slick as a carney's pitch. Dad's death?
No accident.
Harlan's crew, ex-cons he rehabilitated with minimum wage and threats, had rigged the wires, payback for Dad threatening to go public after Elias's stroke in '05. Family first, Harlan had texted Dad weeks before, a photo of me at the Waffle House, time-stamped midnight. Intimidation, pure and simple. The secret festered like kudzu. Dad hadn't just covered, he'd shouldered Harlan's sins too. In '95, when Harlan's first big deal, a strip mall on stolen land, drew heat, Dad forged the manifests, ate the misdemeanor fraud charge that tanked his contractor's license. For the bloodline, the court transcript quoted him, voice steady as rebar. Harlan repaid him with loans that accrued interest like compound lies, trapping Dad in eternal debt. And me? Collateral. Harlan's eyes on me at barbecues weren't avuncular. They were appraising, like I was the next flip. I needed proof, ironclad. Broke into Harlan's storage unit off I-64 at dawn, the kind with chain-link fences and cameras I looped with a cheap burner phone trick from a YouTube tutorial. Inside, boxes of Elias's war memorabilia, letters yellowed with regret. One from Harlan to Dad, postmark 72. "You take the heat, brother, and I'll make us kings. The coins are your marker. Pay back when you're ready." Dad never cashed in. Instead, he marked new ones, hid them as warnings, breadcrumbs for me. That's when the flip hit. Harlan called again, casual as a weather report. "Heard you're poking around, Belle. Careful, some foundations shift." Then, a package at my door, Dad's old watch, engraved with the X and a note. "Let's talk family. Dinner at the house. Bring the coins. Trap? Maybe. But in Kentucky, you don't back down from a showdown. You saddle up." The house was Harlan's McMansion in the gates of the Bluegrass, a gated sprawl of faux-colonial bullshit with columns taller than my pride. I pulled up in Dad's rattling Ford, coins in a Ziploc like contraband, heart hammering like a bass line at a hoedown. Harlan greeted me on the porch, bourbon in hand, his wife Lydia fluttering behind like a moth to a porch light, blonde, Botoxed, blissfully blind. "Arabella, sweetheart. Come in, we've got ribs and revelation." Dinner was theater. Harlan spinning yarns of Elias's heroics, Lydia nodding like a bobblehead, their kids, twins, college-bound and carbon copy smug, texting under the table. But his eyes? Predatory, flipping from charm to chill with every sip. Midway through pecan pie, he slid a folder across the oak slab, Dad's debts. Forgiven in full, with a check for 50 grand. For your future, Belle. College, a down payment. Let the past rest. I laughed, sharp as shattered glass. Future built on graves? Pass. Flipped the table, metaphorically. plates clinking like warnings, and spilled the coins. They rolled, marked faces up, accusing. Harlan's mask cracked then, a vein pulsing at his temple. You think you know blood? Elias chose me. Tommy was the spare. He begged to take the fall. Weakness, not loyalty. Lies, but laced with truth. The confrontation escalated, voices rising like floodwaters. Lydia gasped, kids bolted upstairs. Harlan leaned in, breath hot with scotch. Touch my world, and yours crumbles. You're just like Tommy, outmatched. I left with the folder shredded in my trunk, but his words burrowed. Was Dad complicit? Had he chosen silence for scraps of the empire? Back home, the trailer felt like a cage. I plodded deeper. Hack his emails via a shady IT guy from the Waffle House crew, leak docs to the Courier-Journal. But doubt crept in, a controversial whisper. Was revenge justice, or just trading one monster for another? Harlan wasn't pure evil. He'd wired scholarships for Dad's old VFW buddies, mentored kids from the holler. Flipper, yes. But family? The call came at 3 a.m. Anonymous, garbled. Hayes' blood runs deep. Check the attic. Grandpa's old trunk, dust-choked. Inside, a tape, Elias's voice crackling like static thunder. Tommy, Harlan's playing you. The 72 bust? His idea. Coins mark the traders, start with him. Revelation hit like moonshine burn. But the twist? Elias's laugh, bitter. And if blood calls, answer. Even if it's your own. I clutched the cassette, coins cold in my lap. The line blurred. Who was the villain now? Dawn broke over the trailer park like a hangover you couldn't shake, the kind where the birdsong sounds like mockery and the coffee tastes like regret. That tape from Grandpa's attic? It wasn't just dirt. It was dynamite, Elias's gravelly confession blasting holes in the family mythos I'd clung to like a security blanket. Harlan's the snake, Tommy boy. He growled through the hiss of reel-to-reel, but I birthed him. We all got marks.
Me?
I was the echo, Arabella Hayes, daughter of dupes and dealers, staring at my reflection in the fogged bathroom mirror, dark circles like bruises, eyes that mirrored Elias's flint without the fire. Revenge wasn't a straight shot anymore. It was a hall of mirrors, every flip revealing a new angle, a new lie. I needed allies, but trust was scarcer than honest work in Madison County. First stop, Cousin Josie, Harlan's daughter from his first marriage, the black sheep who'd bailed on the McMansion life for a dive bar in Cincinnati. We met at a Cracker Barrel off I-75, neutral ground where the hash brown casserole could choke down secrets. Josie looked like me but harder, tattoos snaking up her arms, hair dyed the red of rusted Fords. Dad's a chameleon, Belle, she muttered, stabbing her eggs like they owed her money. Flipped sides faster than a politician at a fundraiser. Gave me tuition money once, then cut me off when I wouldn't intern at his firm. But Tommy? He was the saint, wiring me cash when Dad froze the accounts. If you're gunning for him, count me in, but don't expect clean hands. Josie's intel was gold. Harlan's current play, a mega development in Lexington, luxury condos on contaminated land from Elias's old acquisitions. Bribes to inspectors, shell companies like ghosts from 72. She slipped me a USB drive, encrypted emails proving the cover-up on Dad's death, Harlan's signature greenlighting the warning, wire job. He calls it family pruning, Josie sneered. Weeds out the weak. But her eyes flickered, that haze flip, loyalty warring with loathing. Was she in, or bait? Armed, I escalated. Anonymous posts on Reddit's r/Kentucky and local Facebook groups. Hayes Holdings, build on bodies? Attached redacted docs, the coins scanned and circled like evidence in a true crime doc. The internet ignited, threads exploding with outrage, locals dredging old grudges about evictions and eminent domain. Harlan's stock dipped overnight. Calls flooded his office from pissed-off investors. He retaliated swift. My trailer tire slashed, a brick through the window with a note. Blood warns blood. Classic flip. Charm to threat, uncle to enemy. But the controversy brewed. Pundits on local news spun it both ways. Whistleblower daughter versus grieving opportunist. Talk radio hosts from Lexington to Louisville pitted me as the vengeful harpy, Harlan the self-made titan crushed by a dead man's grudge. Family secrets should stay buried, one grizzled host barked, while a feminist podcaster hailed me as Me Too for the working class. Sides formed, Harlan's blue blood donors versus my Hollerkin, petitions circulating like chain letters. No one's hands clean, Dad's complicity in the laundering, Elias's war crimes, even my leaks skirting felonies. Who was right? The betrayal cut deep, but so did the mirror. High noon showdown at the VFW Hall in Berea, neutral turf soaked in vet sweat and stale bud. Harlan showed solo, no entourage, just him in khakis and a polo, looking every bit the country club dad. "Belle, this ends," he said, voice low over the clink of pool balls. "You're tearing us apart for ghosts." I laid it out. Tape playing on my phone, coins on the sticky bar top. His face cycled, shock, denial, rage.
Elias lied.
I saved us. Tommy was drowning in booze and bad deals. The fall? He volunteered. Hero shit.
Bull.
The flip came then, Harlan's masterstroke, pulling a folder from his satchel, Dad's suicide note, forged, but damning. I can't face the debts anymore. Forgive me, Belle. My world tilted. Had Dad planned to end it? Make me the patsy? No. Ink analysis later proved fake, but in that moment, doubt poisoned the well. "You're just like him," Harlan hissed, close enough I smelled his cologne. Overpowering like lies piled high.
Weak.
Needing a villain to feel strong. I shoved him, hard, first contact, controversial as hell. He stumbled, glass shattering, vets pulling us apart like refs in a cage fight. Cops came, questions flew, assault charges hanging like storm clouds. Josie bailed me out, but the damage? Irreparable. Harlan spun it to the press. Tragic family dispute, my niece's grief manifesting violently. I became the aggressor, the unhinged one, while his development permits sailed through on sympathy waves. Nights blurred into codeine-fueled hazes, Waffle House shifts cut short by shakes. The secret Elias buried? Not just smuggling. Harlan had flipped on him too. Tape's end revealed it. Elias confessing to ratting a fellow vet for a bigger cut, Harlan the courier. Blood betrayed blood, generationally. My revenge? A hydra, cut one head, two grew, each uglier. Twist sharpened when Josie called, voice cracking. Dad knows about the USB. He's coming for you and me. Alliance or ambush? I armed up, not guns, but recordings, allies in the press. The climax loomed, a board meeting in Harlan's boardroom, where empires rose and fell like poker hands. I'd crash it, coins in pocket, tape in hand. But as I drove, rain lashing the windshield like tears I wouldn't shed, I wondered, win this, and what? A hollow victory, or just another mark on my soul? The room waited, tense as a tripwire. Time to flip the script. The boardroom of Hayes Holdings squatted on the 22nd floor of a glass monolith in downtown Lexington, all polished mahogany and views that made you feel like a god, or a fool staring at the abyss. I slipped in through the service elevator, Josie's borrowed keycard burning in my pocket like contraband nitro. Dressed in a thrift store blazer over jeans stiff with determination, I clutched the satchel. Coins, tape, USB, like a digital rosary for the damned. Harlan's empire pulsed below, a vein of greed threading through the bluegrass. But up here? It was Judgment Day, American style, suits and stakes, where the only collateral was your last shred of decency. The meeting was in full swing when I burst through the double doors, 20 faces snapping up like startled deer. Investors in Hermes ties, lawyers with shark smiles, Harlan at the head, mid-pitch on the sustainable condos built on poisoned soil. "Arabella," he breathed, smile flipping to frost in a heartbeat. Security. But Josie, my wild card, stood, blocking the door with a chair wedged under the handle.
"Sit down, Dad."
Time for truth or dare. Chaos erupted, controversial as a Trump rally in a Baptist hall. Phones whipped out, filming the standoff. A venture capitalist from Nashville bolted for the exit, only to find Josie's improvised barricade unyielding. I hit play on the portable speaker, Elias's voice booming like a specter at the feast. Confessions of smuggling, Harlan's betrayal, Dad's sacrifice. Gasps rippled. This is libel, a silver-haired exec sputtered, while a younger analyst leaned in, eyes wide with that millennial hunger for disruption. Harlan rose, face purpling, but his flip was poetry. Gentlemen, my niece, grief-stricken, unstable. This is a hoax, a daughter's desperate bid for attention. I countered with the USB, projecting emails onto the screen, bribes time-stamped, Dad's death memo initialed HH, the room fractured, half nodding furiously, scenting scandal and short sells, the other clutching pearls, loyalty to Harlan's golf course charisma. He's a builder, one defended, voice quavering. Created jobs. Another, a woman in pearls, Harlan's token diversity higher, shot back. On the backs of the broken? I've seen the evictions. Sides drawn, the air electric with debate. Was Harlan a visionary or a vampire? Dad a martyr or a mark? Me, a hero, or just another haze feeding on the corpse? Harlan lunged then, snatching for the projector cord, but I was faster, slamming the satchel down, coins scattering across the table like loaded dice. They skittered, marks up, glinting under fluorescence. Pick one, I snarled. Every debt has a face. He froze, hand hovering, the flip in his eyes raw. Predator cornered, calculating escape. Bell, please. Family. But his whisper cracked, revealing the boy who'd begged Elias for scraps, the brother who'd sold out Tommy for a throne. The board devolved into shouting matches, motions to dissolve partnerships, calls to the SEC, one guy live-tweeting Hayes heist with emojis of coffins and crowns. Josie waded in, voice steady. I grew up in this shadow. Dad flipped us all, me, Tommy, even Elias. But blood? It ends here. Harlan whirled on her, betrayal doubling down. You? My own flesh, siding with this. This trailer trash vendetta. The slur landed like a slap, controversial lightning, class war in a conference room, Southern Gothic meets Wall Street. Security breached the doors then, burly types in ill-fitting blazers, but the tide had turned. Investors bolted, dragging laptops and loyalty. The lawyer who drafted Harlan's trusts whispered, "We're done," slipping me a card. Harlan, isolated, flipped one last time, to plea. "What do you want?
Money?
The company? Name it." I leaned in, close as confession. Justice. Dad's name cleared. Your marks exposed. He nodded, broken, but his eyes? Calculating the comeback, the countersuit, the character assassination. We left them to the vultures, Josie and I, descending in the elevator like victors from a bloodless coup. Sirens wailed distant, press swarming the lobby like flies on roadkill. Victory tasted like ash, though, the room's division mirroring my soul. Had I avenged, or just perpetuated the cycle? Dad's ghost whispered no clear win. Elias's tape echoed the ambiguity. Harlan wasn't cartoon evil. He built schools, fed the hungry during floods. His sins stained, but so did mine. Leaks that could jail innocence, a shove that might scar. Night fell heavy as I crashed at Josie's apartment, a walk-up overlooking the river, walls papered in banned posters and regret. We split a six-pack of High Life, toasting fractured thrones. He's not done, she warned, scrolling headlines. Hayes heiress in boardroom brawl, mental breakdown or corporate coup? Pundits piled on. X threads, that's Twitter for us old-timers, erupting in polls. Team Arabella 52%, Team Harlan 48%. Close enough to cut. The controversy a Rorschach test. Readers projecting their own betrayals, debating if blood absolves or condemns. Sleep evaded, coins under my pillow like guilty talismans. Dreamed of the grave, Dad rising unmarked, whispering, "Flip it back, Belle. For us." Woke to Josie's scream, Harlan's car in the lot below, idling. Stalking? Or surrender? The call came at sunrise. Harlan, voice hollow. Meet me. The old house. One last revelation. Trap or truce? The climax peaked, tension coiling like a spring in a bear trap. I went alone, satchel heavy, heart heavier. The Victorian loomed, Dad's last sight, windows dark as deceit. Inside, shadows danced. Harlan waited in the basement, lantern flickering over exposed beams, the very wires that claimed Dad, now dangling like nooses. "You win," he said, handing an envelope thick as sin. "Deeds, confessions, a full exoneration for Tommy Hayes. Sign over your claims, and it's yours." But the flip, his masterstroke, unfolded. The envelope held photos, not of crimes, but of me. Candid shots, at the library breaking into storage, even with Josie. Leverage, Belle. Always leverage. Rage boiled, controversial decision crystallizing. Burn it all? Or bargain? I chose the gray, pocketed the docs, smashed the lantern. Sparks flew, flames licking joists. Your empire burns with your lies. We fled as sirens howled, the house, symbol of our rot, consuming itself. Outside, Harlan grabbed my arm, eyes wild. "You're me now." The flipper. Truth stung. Victory? Pyrrhic, sides still split in the ashes. Flames clawed the night sky over Frankfurt like the devil's own barbecue, the Victorian skeleton cracking under heat that warped the air into mirages of what-ifs. Harlan and I stood on the lawn, silhouettes against the inferno, the envelope clutched between us like a suicide pact. Sirens wailed closer, red-blue strobes painting our faces in accusatory light. Cops, fire crews, the whole circus descending on our private apocalypse. "You did this," Harlan muttered, not anger, but awe, like he'd finally seen the family monster in the mirror and recognized his kin. I yanked free, docs in hand, coins jingling in my pocket like mocking applause.
No, uncle.
We did. The aftermath hit like a Category 5 hangover, Kentucky justice grinding slow but merciless. Arson charges loomed, but the envelope? Gold. Dad's name cleared in a DA's office that reeked of stale Folgers and faded glory. Testimony from Josie, emails authenticated, even a deathbed affidavit from one of Harlan's rehabbed goons, conscience pricked by the blaze. Harlan folded like cheap lawn chair, plea deal for fraud, manslaughter in Dad's death, the works. His empire splintered, assets seized, condo stalled, the boardroom wolves feasting on scraps. Headlines screamed, Hayes dynasty in flames, betrayal, arson, and a daughter's reckoning. Pundits frothed, X ablaze with debates, justice for Tommy trending alongside Harlan innocent, polls seesawing as new leaks dripped, Elias's full war logs, surfacing like zombies, painting Grandpa not hero, but enabler. Controversy peaked in the courtroom, a Frankfurt farce under fluorescent buzz, Judge Harlan's old golf buddy presiding with a gavel that thwacked like punctuation on our sins. I testified first person raw. The coins weighed in my palm, Dad's unspoken burdens, the flips that fractured us. He took the fall so we could stand, I said, voice steady as rebar, but inside? Storm-tossed. Harlan's defense flipped the narrative. Grieving brother, manipulated by a vengeful niece high on grief and grudge. Arabella's no avenger, his lawyer drawled, silk-tongued as a revival preacher. She's a destroyer. Arson for attention, dragging family through mud for her 15 minutes. Gasps from the gallery, my Waffle House crew in the back, fists clenched, Harlan's donors front row, pearls clutched. The cross-exam?
Brutal ballet.
You shoved him at the VFW, Ms. Hayes. Assault. And the fire, impulsive, destructive. Like your father, chasing ghosts. I fired back. Like my uncle, burying them. Jury split, blue-collar holdouts for me, white-collar for him, deliberating 3 days, emerging with manslaughter guilty, fraud maxed, but arson pinned on unknown. A controversial cop-out that sparked riots in comment sections. Half justice, Josie texted from the bar, but it's something. Harlan's sentencing was theater, orange jumpsuit in county lockup, 2 to 5 with time off for cooperation. He caught my eye as they led him away, a final flip, not hate, but handover. The coins, Belle.
They're yours now.
Finish what Elias started. Revelation hit post-trial. In his emptied penthouse, Josie and I sifting ashes of opulence. A safe cracked open. Dozens more halves, marked X, and a ledger. Elias's true haul. Not just opium but artifacts, black market Buddhas and jade that funded generations.
But the twist?
Dad's handwriting in the margins. Harlan's cut. 60%.
Mine, forgivenes.
He'd known the flips, chosen the burden, not victim, but guardian. Betrayal? Mutual. The crime I'd borne? Ignorance, heavier than any fall. Months blurred. Settlement checks rebuilt the holler. Scholarships in Dad's name sent kids to UK. Josie and I flipping legit. A co-op of tiny homes on clean land. No ghosts attached. But the ending?
Nota idibau.
Harlan appealed from inside, whispering to lawyers about my instability, leaks hinting at a tell-all that could drag us back to court. I visited once, plexiglass between us, coins on the table. Why? I asked. He smiled, faded but sharp. Blood calls, Belle. You answered. Now, do you forgive? Debate eternal. Forgiveness as weakness or wisdom. I walked out, coins in pocket, the mark my own now. Life rolled on. American gritty. Waffle House sunrises. Josie's laugh over IPAs. A blind date with a carpenter who traced my scars without questions. Happy? In flashes. Tragic? In the quiet, when Dad's ghost flips through memories, unmarked. But here's the hook that lingers. The twist that sparks bar fights and late-night texts. What if Harlan was right? The fire, not justice, but the first crack in my foundation. Every coin I spend now, groceries, gas, grace, bears that X, a reminder. Revenge doesn't end, it echoes. And in this family, blood doesn't just run deep, it runs you. So yeah, I shocked the room that day with Grandpa's tape. But the real shock? Staring down the barrel of your own reflection, wondering if the villain was ever them, or always waiting in you.